Okay, so it turns out that Yai is also having the same dreams. It almost feels like they've been dreaming about the same events and dreaming about each other quite often. So much so that when they first met each other in person, they were both taken aback because they immediately recognized each other. That is beyond insane. Like, I wouldn't even know what I would do if I was in the same shoes as them. That would drive me nuts. I would question my sanity. And then that underwater scene, by the way, was so stunning, so beautiful. I wish it was longer, but just them seeing each other face to face for the very first time, for real and not in their dreams, I think was beautiful. And then poor Jom, he has gone through so much within such a short period of time since being teleported or transported to this timeline. And this man must be so confused. I don't blame him. And he was stunned when he first stared at Yai. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, aside from the fact that Bright or Yai is an incredibly good-looking person, but Yai has been the man who seems to be the same person who constantly shows up in his dreams. So trying to process that must have been so difficult, and at the same time try to act cool in front of Yai. Again, I would be so lost. Honestly, I wouldn't know what I would have done to myself if I was in his shoes. Because first, he was sent to the past with no knowledge as to how he got there, why he got there, and how the hell is he gonna get back to his own timeline. And then he meets this man again who constantly shows up in his dreams, but he doesn't know that he also shows up in his dream, but that's besides the point. But he sees him in person and he has to act like he's never met him before. He tries to act cool around him, but internally he's going insane. And as if that's not crazy enough, he meets or sees people in this timeline who he also recognizes from his own timeline, but only it's really not them, but rather their variants or their different versions. So poor Jom. I mean, this is giving parallel universe, multiversal MCU vibes. To be completely honest with you, it's just it's a clusterfuck. I don't know how else to put it. But obviously in the beginning, he doesn't realize that. He doesn't know that these are not the same people. His immediate response to seeing a familiar face after seemingly being trapped in the past, his initial response was to approach them and hoping that they would recognize him. But he eventually realized that these are not the same people. These are not the same human beings who he knows from his own timeline. This woman in front of him was not his sister, but rather the sister of the man that he keeps dreaming about, who he now has met in person. I am so lost, y'all. Like, while this was happening, the wheels were turning in my head, but they were a little rusty. So it took me a while to get with the program, you know what I mean? But yeah, this was not his sister. That alone, like everything that has taken place, everything that Jom had experienced up until this point, that alone would have been more than enough to send me to a psychiatric hospital. Honestly, that would have fucked me up. I don't know, Jom is handling it way better than I probably would have, but I still feel bad for him, poor Jom. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, Jom sees a variant of and a variant of the girl he left him for. Come on, Jom needs help. Someone needs to help him over there because he's handling this all by himself. And I'm not sure how much of this he's properly, if any, he's properly processed, because this is too much. And it's so crazy because in my reaction to episode 1, I had mentioned that by Jom being teleported or transported to this current timeline and essentially removing him from his previous home baseline timeline, him being removed from that timeline, I mentioned that in a way it was, I guess, helping him and shielding him and protecting him from what was hurting him there, and that was mainly and the girl, because he cheated on him and left him for her. So by him essentially moving away from them and not having to see them, I thought was going to help Jom. Come to find out, those two are also here. I mean, not exactly the same people, but their variants are also here. And to make things worse, these two variants, these two people, and this girl, are seemingly attracted to each other. So And I think Jom now realizes that these are not the same people from his own timeline, but I can't even imagine how difficult it must be for him to differentiate these two people from the other two people. So in his eyes, visually, they're the same people, which means he almost feels like he's reliving that trauma and the emotional damage that they've caused by cheating on him and essentially betraying him. So it's a double whammy, dude. Like, he was hurt there and he's also hurting here. Poor Jom just can't catch a break, dude. Someone needs to help him. Again, this is just too much for one person to handle. And my brain and my heart, everything would have exploded by this point. There's no fixing me if I was in his shoes. To be honest, I just don't know what to do with myself. That's a lot to process. That's a lot of unanswered questions. It's a lot of confusion. I don't know. I can't wait to see episode 3 because I don't know how they're going to move forward with this. But anyway, moving back to Jom and Yai, they obviously recognize each other, but I don't think they know just quite yet that they've already met each other in each other's dreams. Right now, I think they're just trying to figure each other out and why, and trying to understand why this person is now here when they were just initially in my dreams a lot of times. But how am I, especially for Jom, because everything that he's gone through, and now he essentially is an outsider being placed in this timeline. So with everything else that was already happening, and then comes Yai, this must have been so fucking crazy too. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I'm like tripping out right now still, just trying to process and trying to put myself in his situation. I can't even imagine how I don't know. But Yai, on the other hand, I'm sure, at least from what I see, he's been from this era. You know, I don't know if he's time traveled too, but from what I know so far, he's been in this timeline and has just been dreaming about Jom, and then Jom shows up. So he too is like, what the hell? Like, who is this person? Why do I feel like I already know him? Why was he showing up in my dreams? Was that really my dream? You know, I wonder when they'll realize that they've been having the same dreams and that they have possibly have met already. That's gonna be so exciting. And their scene toward the end of this episode was so beautiful when Yai was putting on the bracelet on Jom's wrist. He could not take his eyes and hand off of Jom. I mean, he was just staring at him and holding his hand the entire time. I don't blame him. You know, he was literally staring at and touching the literal man of his dreams. You know, he was probably trying to process all of that. Why does he seem and feel familiar? The way he was looking at him, everything was heavenly. That scene was so adorable. I wish it was, again, longer. And then when Jom felt Yai's hand on his forehead or on the side of his head, he had that look as if he recognized Yai's touch, or he recognized Yai's scent, or shit, maybe even both. That was beautiful. That should have been longer too. Just the way they were staring at each other and probably confused as fuck as well. Trying to understand this very moment. Why does it feel so foreign and familiar at the same time? They're probably questioning whether or not they were actually even dreaming at this point, like a dream within a dream, kind of like Inception. And then when they realized that they might have been staring at each other for far too long, they immediately pulled back and had the most adorable reactions. The way their eyes were moving, their facial expressions, the acting of these two actors, by the way, or everyone so far has been great, but especially the lead actors, so good. So compelling. I love it. I know we're only episode 2, but I am in love with both of them, and I cannot wait to see more. Anyway, that is it for us today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your time. What do you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments section down below. As always, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your time. Before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss my next video. Until then, I will see you later.